Imagine asking someone that and then you can actually help the wish come true. So many people have such big bucket list items, and to be able to fulfill that, what a good news story. Thank you, Lindsay, this morning. Good morning to you at home. We are following not only the weather across the country, but specifically the weather in BC, where we've had some rain since last evening and some thunderstorms as well. We'll detail more of that coming up in the program. The rest of the country under a rather zonal pattern today, but into the weekend, we start to see this large upper trough really taking over, and that's going to mean a transition from hot, humid weather for eastern Canada today and tomorrow into cooler and wetter conditions for some into the weekend. Here's where we're at this morning. We do have rain pushing through the western side of Newfoundland. That's cooling off Corner Brook. The rest of the island still quite warm. Into midday today, there's the likelihood of some sprinkly showers right across southern Quebec, and then heavier rain, possible thunderstorms around the Toronto area from about Hamilton all the way eastward up towards Kingston. That is possible midday. Into the evening tonight, we're likely to see a similar setup to yesterday across central Quebec and the south, where thunderstorms begin to fire up mid-afternoon. Now that begins to push overnight through the maritime provinces a little bit later on. Even Fredericton, you could see a thunderstorm late tonight and then overnight. Into your Friday, here's what it looks like. Sunshine for Ontario, scattered showers across Quebec, and then much wetter weather up towards Labrador as well. And that then begins to slowly push its way into portions of Atlantic Canada. So this morning, if you are tuning in from Ontario, this is what you can expect later on today. Some areas hot and humid, but further east and south, we do have that risk of generally unsettled weather as we head into midday. For Quebec, the likelihood of afternoon storms is similar to yesterday. That's set up right around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You might see those storms firing up. And for New Brunswick, you'll likely see storms moving in later on this evening, sometime after the bedtime hour, around 10 p.m. or so, and then much wetter up towards Corner Brook this morning. That's a look at eastern Canada. Like I said, coming up, we'll detail the rain in the west. Now here's your local forecast. Newfoundland, Halifax starting the day off at 18 degrees and 19 right now in the city of Toronto. Now, I mentioned the BC forecast, and look at this. We've got rain this morning, but with it is coming some lightning. These are thunderstorms, and so this morning between Ashcroft and Kamloops, there have been lightning strikes. We're hoping that these lightning strikes are not fueling the situation and that any rain that's falling in the area is combating what's going on the ground, but I'll obviously keep you updated. There are no warnings across Canada this morning. The only in place are air quality advisories in BC and Alberta, and we'll detail if there will be any improvement in that air quality coming up in the next hour. Now, for eastern Canada, there's some rain as well, just east of Superior, and generally portions of northern Ontario as we head eastward towards the Quebec boundary, and southern Ontario, including eastward towards Ottawa. That's where we'll see more unsettled weather today in Ontario. For Quebec, you've got a lot of cloud in the south this morning with the risk of some storms into the afternoon. And Atlantic Canada, we've got rain moving its way in towards Newfoundland, and that's cooling down the forecast. Now for southern Ontario, where it's not really cooling down, it's also going to be quite a humid day, as we see with our water vapor imagery, a lot of humidity and moisture moving its way in towards southern Ontario. So not quite as hot as yesterday, but you'll definitely still feel that mugginess at times. 27 today in Toronto, 31 for Windsor, 28 in Niagara, 28 in Ottawa, and you see that risk of unsettled weather, and that risk of thunderstorm really can come anytime after about 11 a.m. Thunder Bay, Sudbury, you'll likely stay drier and a bit sunnier today as well. Heading into the afternoon for southern Quebec, Montreal, you've got a risk of thunderstorms, same up towards Quebec City, 28 degrees and 26 today in Sherbrooke, a little more sunshine further north. Now Atlantic Canada, I mentioned the rain moving its way in towards western Newfoundland, so Corner Brook, big drop in temperature for you. For Gander and for St. John's, it's still fairly warm, but St. John's, you do have a risk of some drizzle through the day today, and then you can see an isolated risk of a few thunderstorms as well. Sydney, you've got that risk for you. Charlottetown, Halifax, I wouldn't rule it out to see a sprinkle of rain or two. And Fredericton, 31 today, but tonight you've got thunderstorms moving in, and that's after about 8 p.m.
A lot of disagreement. I know, I see it on Twitter sometimes. Yeah. They're like, where is my rain?
I know.
Not usually.
I know. I do my best. I do my best. Hopefully we can get you up to speed with what's happening in your area this morning and into the afternoon. Again, we're seeing that risk of some thunderstorms across portions of eastern Canada. Also in western Canada, around the Edmonton area in Alberta through Saskatchewan and then portions of Manitoba, we've got some storms on deck for today. Now, if you are tuning in from Newfoundland, Labrador, know that there's a front moving through and some rain cooling things off, particularly the western side of the province. Gander, for example, you'll still be warmer today. today, up in the high 20s. But St. John's, you've got the risk of some drizzle. Hot in Fredericton today, 31 degrees with evening thunderstorms on deck, 28 in Halifax. Possible chance of a few showers scattered, but otherwise enjoy the sunshine. Cloud to start you off in southern Quebec. You've got the risk of some storms later on this afternoon. Ottawa, you as well. Much of eastern Ontario seeing that thunderstorm risk a little bit later on today. Southern Ontario, still a fairly humid day with midday storms possible from Windsor all the way up towards Toronto and then north towards North Bay. Pockets of sunshine, though, as we head into northwestern Ontario today. Thunder Bay, Dryden, Red Lake area, getting more sunshine as we head into the back end of your Thursday. Sunny today in Winnipeg, 28 degrees. But again, I mentioned that widespread risk of thunderstorms, convective style thunderstorms popping up over the prairies. And we'll detail where the biggest risk zones are coming up in the next half hour. But sunshine generally prevails across Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba today. It's as we head into BC where we are seeing thunderstorms already this morning. Vancouver has a risk of storms, Kelowna as well. And we've had a few lightning strikes in between the Ashcroft and Kamloops area already this morning. Generally, though, we are seeing continued rain and the risk of thunderstorm through today. Friday's looking drier, but then into Saturday, you see a lot more cloud cover with a likely showers developing into the evening hours. And again, this could come with the risk of thunderstorm as well. So we'll be monitoring this closely. The downside, obviously, is the lightning. The upside is the fact that we're seeing more cloud cover, a higher humidity, and the rainfall in the area where we desperately need it. That's a look across the country this morning. Like I said, coming up, we'll detail thunderstorm risk in the next half hour. Now it's over to Ben.
Thanks, Kelsey.
To see unless there's dense fog in the area, and there definitely wasn't over the last couple of days. So we'll talk about BC this morning. We've got a trough, an upper trough right over the coastline, and that's bringing some wetter weather. The rest of the country under a rather zonal pattern today, but an upper trough begins to take over, which brings more unsettled to the east, more unsettled weather, I should say, to the east as we head into the weekend. For BC, though, you can see today that there's rain. For the first time in how many days? In weeks, we are talking rain, but with this rain is coming the risk of thunderstorm as well. And we see that thunderstorm risk persist not only for the coastline for Vancouver, but into the interior as well. Revelstoke, Kamloops, up towards Williams Lake with a risk of thunderstorm. And already this morning, we've had a few lightning strikes in between Ashcroft and Kamloops. Now, that poor air quality advisory continues for much of the interior. Vancouver has been dropped, so is the Fraser Valley. But over into Alberta, again, we see that extended air quality advisory all the way up towards the Edmonton area and further north. Calgary not included in the advisory, but obviously we're seeing the impact of the smoke. Now, with that thunderstorm risk in BC, we also see an extended risk as we head over into Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. The yellow is a moderate risk, so that includes Saskatoon and Regina, just outside of Edmonton. West of Edmonton, there is a severe risk of thunderstorms, so very likely as we head into the afternoon, firing up on the northern end of the foothills, we'll see those thunderstorms. In terms of the rest of the day, though, lots of sunshine and warm temperatures right across Alberta, Saskatchewan, all the way up to Prince Albert, and then into Manitoba as well. Nice clear sky. That clear sky persists for northwest Ontario, eastern side of the province, down into the south and into southern Quebec, dealing with more unsettled conditions for today. Also rather humid in southern Ontario, so another hot, sticky day ahead for some. Look at these temperatures. You can see that risk of thunderstorm further south. For Quebec, we also see that risk of thunderstorm as we head into the early afternoon from Montreal and up towards Quebec City. And Atlantic Canada, scattered thunderstorms, a few showers as well. Rain in Newfoundland and drizzle extending all the way eastward towards St. John's. Fredericton 31 today, but heads up tonight, you do have a risk of thunderstorm moving in. Now here's a look at your local forecast. I read so many different articles on this story this morning because we've all been there. Yeah, I'm just glad he found it. Poor guy. At least it had a different license plate, right?
I think a Florida license plate that would probably helped out.
Totally. I have an Alberta license plate still on my car. Maybe I shouldn't have admitted that a year later, but it's easy to find. That's for sure. Hey, Eastern Canada, we'll start off with you. Here's your forecast for today. And we've got some very hot pockets, including Bathurst, New Brunswick. Currently, the hot spot in Canada is sitting at 25.1 degrees Celsius. So later on today, we will see, particularly inland New Brunswick, 31 today in Fredericton, nice and hot. Thunderstorms later on tonight. Chance of a few sprinkles as we're heading through Charlottetown and Halifax. Maybe the rumble of a thunderstorm as well. And then up towards Newfoundland, Labrador. Wet in Labrador today. Western half of Newfoundland, definitely cooler and wetter, with drizzle extending further east, but warmer temperatures the further east you go. Now for Quebec, there's the risk of a few thunderstorms as we head into the afternoon later on today. A lot of cloud this morning. Eastern Ontario right along the boundary, and then through the south, that's where we do have a risk of a few thunderstorms. They're crossing Lake Huron and Georgian Bay this morning and will likely slide across southern Ontario as we head into the early afternoon, late morning, early afternoon hours. Further north, more sunshine through Thunder Bay and Winnipeg, 28 degrees with sunshine today. There is the risk of some thunderstorms across the Prairie provinces today, generally non-severe, but as we're heading through, particularly west of Edmonton, that's where we could get into a tricky situation with thunderstorms later on today. If you do have sunshine, though, enjoy it. Obviously, these thunderstorms, as you know, in the prairies, they're pretty regionalized. Now, 29 today in Saskatoon, 27 in Calgary. The air quality significantly reduced through portions of Alberta and then into the BC interior, obviously because of those fires. We've got some thunderstorms this morning. That thunderstorm risk persists through BC for much of today, then that spins off into the prairies. We see a lot more cloud for Friday and then into Saturday and Sunday as well, some lingering precipitation. So we're hoping the rain helps the situation. The cloud reduces some of the humidity that's in the, or the sunshine in the area and increases the humidity, but we'll be tracking those thunderstorms pretty closely over the next couple of days. Now let's send it over to Lindsay. All right, for Dolphins to get into these situations, but then also good news to survive as well. Hey, Western Canada, we'll start with you because how many days have you heard me say it's not raining in British Columbia? It's sunny. Today, it's a different story, but with that rain comes also lightning, and we've got some thunderstorms this morning. It's coming because, in part, of an upper trough in the higher up in the atmosphere. That holds steady through today, swings over into Alberta, and actually prompts some thunderstorms on the Alberta and Saskatchewan side of the boundaries as well. But this morning, you can see that rain spreading its way through. We've had some thunderstorms this morning between Ashcroft and Kamloops. Ashcroft, you heard us talk about a lot, that community dealing with the heart of the fires. It's also spreading rain onto the Alberta side of the boundary this morning. So that in some areas will help with air quality as the rain pulls down some of that particulate matter, but still widespread advisories from Environment Canada. In terms of the thunderstorm risk in the prairies, you can see that west of Edmonton, we've got a moderate and severe risk of storms. Your biggest factors, strong winds, a lot of rain, 50 millimeters or so, and then likely seeing hail into Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba, south and west of Winnipeg. That's where we also have a moderate risk of thunderstorm as well. Otherwise, enjoy the sunshine today in the prairies. Really humid in southern parts of southern Ontario today. Otherwise, generally sunny in the province with the risk of some storms moving into southern Ontario and southern Quebec later on today. Atlantic Canada, cooler conditions in Newfoundland thanks to this rain moving through, but Fredericton, New Brunswick still getting up to 31 degrees this afternoon. Now here's a look at your local forecast.